Today I will be doing a tutorial on how to create an HDRI using a mirror ball, a camera, and then quickly integrate that into a video created with Blender. I will only be using free software for this, and except for Blender I will also be using Luminance HDR. Okay, let's get going. So first you need to decide on the scene that you want to film. As you can see here, I set up a simple scene with these two cards and the glue stick. And essentially, as you can see here, the trick is you need to place a mirror ball in approximately the position where you will be placing your computer-generated object using Blender later on. So in this case, as you can see, I put the mirror ball on the left side of the image and took a photo. What you essentially need to do, you should really be creating multiple images with different exposures, usually 2 or 3 stops apart. I actually took 3 images of this. As you can see, this is the brightest one, then slightly darker one that is 2 steps apart actually, and then one that's 2 steps apart again. That is pretty dark, but now you can see the detail in the lamp of the room. So the next thing we will be doing is merge all of these 3 images together using the software called Luminance HDR to create an HDR representation of this image. So, good. Now we will want to create a new HDR image, and we will want to use these 3 images for that. So we can see these are actually really spaced 2 EV apart, so 2 steps. And now just click Next. Just use the default here. Okay, now you can see we have this image here, and if we lower this, we can actually see that it's now HDR. So now this looks pretty normal, but I can also go to the higher section, and you can see that now you can see the detail here and here in the lamps. So this is really an HDR image now. So now we want to crop it to just the size of the mirror ball, because Blender only wants to have the mirror ball image. So now crop this. Make sure that you're pretty close to the actual border of this ball. A little bit difficult to see sometimes because it's reflective. Okay, this is, yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter. It can be a few pixels off. It doesn't matter much. But this looks okay now. So now that we have this, we can just crop the selection. If it does it. Okay, and now we have the mirror ball, just the mirror ball cropped. So just save this, call it tutorial mirror ball.exr, because exr is a really good format for this. Okay, that's done. Now it's fine, discard. And I don't want to have this either, so fine. So now we have this tutorial mirror ball exr, just check. Yep, there it is. Okay. So now, now we have this. Now we have to do the video, of course. I already did it. Here I can play what the video looks like. Okay, so you see I put some tracing markers here on the stick. This is a glue stick. And this is about where we will put the image. Okay, now let's open this up in Blender. One important thing here, I will be using features that are quite bleeding edge, so it will probably be only available in Blender 2.79, but I'm using a bleeding edge build from the website. You can download them from the website as well. So this is 2.78 and some stuff more. Okay. Now we want to create a new session. Okay, so let's remove this first. So, and now let's go to the video clip editor, or movie clip editor. So load up the image, the video, sorry. Okay, now we have the video here, and the point is, okay, we can make it, this is longer than 250 frames, but I think 250 is enough for this demonstration here. Now what we should do is really, yeah, we can pre-buffer this so it's faster to work with. So prefetch frames. So now it will load the entire video. Okay. Sometimes if you see this and it doesn't pre-cache everything, now you can see if I go to different sizes, it actually starts dropping frames at the beginning here. Now it's probably not enough. It probably doesn't have enough RAM. So go to user preferences, and here you can set how much memory cache limit, and I would say, let's say 10 gigabytes or something. Okay, actually save it. So now again, go to the first frame again, clip, prefetch frames. So what maybe as an explanation what we'll actually be doing, we took the HDR image, so we created the mirrorball image to catch the light of the scene, but to match something into the scene we now also need to match move it. So we need to track at least 6 markers in the scene, and then we can actually integrate an object with a reconstructed camera movement. So let's do this. Using Control and left mouse button you can add trackers. Let's do this. Then let's add markers. Usually it's a good idea to place them in edges or in these corners. That's usually a very good place to put trackers. So let's put them in some of these places here. Let's try. I mean, it doesn't have to be stellar job, just needs to be okay. So where else? This looks like a good place for a tracker. Middle of this diamond shape here. Maybe these corners seem good. Corners are generally good, well suited to this kind of job. Okay, that's enough there. Now let's get some marker here. Maybe this edge of the arrow here is a good place to track this corner here. Okay. Maybe some dirt. Yeah, let's go for this. This looks also very trackable. You can scale these if they're too big. So let's go to for the one corner of this actually. Yeah, I think that's okay. So now this. Okay, now let's press A to select all of them. And now you can say track using this button, and then it will track all of them. Let's see. Okay. Seems to have worked out. All trackers tracked until the end. And looks good. Okay, so now we have the scene tracked. And now what we can do is we can look for a place where there is movement. You need some kind of movement to actually solve the motion. So let's say 30 to 70 seems to have some good motion. So let's go to solve and use 30 until 70. And actually I didn't set the camera length, so I will also do that. So I will set focal length and now solve camera motion. And as you can see here, this has an error of 0.27. That's okay. It's not perfect, but that's okay. So now we have the 3D movement of the camera tracked, and now we can reconstruct the scene. So we can do that. Actually, we can do that here. We can set up tracking scene. Okay. What I forgot, you have to set where the floor is, and you have to set the origin at least. So I would say this marker plus this marker plus this marker. These three form a plane, and I can set them as a floor plane. So if I click here, now that's a floor plane, and I can actually set this as origin now. Set origin, and now I can set up a tracking scene. Okay, that works. I can also click set as background, then it looks better later on. Okay. So now we can go back to 3D view. And yeah, it put some stuff in here. Let's go to camera view and F12 to render. And nothing happened. Okay, that was pretty anticlimactic. So let's go back. So now to set up the actual scene, let's split this so we can see what we're doing. Well, no, maybe not. Maybe just go to the node editor. And now we go to the render, to the compositing nodes, and for some reason this is all garbled up. I don't know why. Probably has something to do because it's not a production build. Okay, so this is actually our output. I put it on the right. Okay, and many of these nodes we will not be using. For example, this vector blur is probably not new. The viewer might be nice. I will be removing most of this stuff. Most of this is not very useful. Keeping some of it, but removing most of it. This movie clips is also fine. Let's remove this. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. Yeah, we don't need this either, and don't need this either. Oh, sorry, that's wrong. We need one render layer. We need the foreground, sorry. Okay. So what we're going, so this undistort actually undistorts our stuff. I don't even know if we need it, but it's fine, and the scale is fine, so it automatically adjusts the image size of the video and this input image here to the render size, so that's pretty nice. So we'll be keeping this. So this render layer actually now, there's some stuff in it that we don't want. So let's let's make it a little bit. So let's set this here so we see what gets rendered, and for now we don't interact with the image yet. So let's go back to the 3D view, and now we can see there is this plane. This is essentially done in there for catching shadows. We will be changing that to something else. Well, yeah. And we will be using a new feature, the Blender Shadow Catcher. And so to do that, we go in here, I think, cycle settings, and now we can make it a shadow catcher. So, and also we will be moving it to the main layer. Currently it's on the second layer here. We will be moving it to this layer. So you can do that pressing the M key and then click this layer. So now it's moved to that layer. So we go to this layer again, and now we can render it again. Let's see what happens. Okay, it renders 2 layers because there are currently 2 layers set up. We remove the background layer, we don't need that. Now again, what do we have here? Okay, it looks better. Now we have a shadow. Okay, so essentially now we have that. We want to make the background transparent. So let's go here, film exposure transparent. Again, what happens is we now get a transparent shadow. Much better. But now actually what we also see is there is no lighting actually, or there's just one lighting. What we now want, we remove this lamp here, just delete, and then now it's gone. Now if we render, it's pretty, well, it's still visible for some reason. I don't know, it says some side light set, whatever. We will now be setting our own created HDRI image. And for that we go to the world and click on use nodes. Background is good. And now instead of color we use environment texture. Now we just open our image here. There. And this is tutorial mirrorball that we just created. And now we should, and oh sorry, one important thing, we set this to mirrorball. So, and now, one way to see if it actually worked, we can set this to rendered. Yeah, sorry, and now we have to go back to non-transparent. And then you can see, this looks pretty okay. There's some distortion behind the ball, because yeah, of course there's nothing there. We don't have the information that was behind the ball, but you can see the room, and this looks okay. Yeah, so that's pretty good. So now we have our HDR lighting setup done. The next point where we might get some, now we can go, now one thing, you might see that the orientation is not correct, because if I'm in my view, and this is essentially how it will look, but you can see that the orientation is wrong, because we would expect this now to show the desktop, because we want the rotation of the world to match the orientation of our scene. So now now I will split this here. Split area around here because I want to have one live view. Let's make the top one. Now here we have the live thing. And now we can go to node editing here. Not this, so to material and world. And here you see this is our environment texture. And now this is our background. The problem that we have now is the orientation is fed into this using this vector node. So now we need to get something here. So using Shift A we can add an input, and this is where we always have to look what it actually was. I think it's geometry and position. So nothing changed because this is essentially the default, but now that we have this data we can rotate it using vector node mapping. Put this in between, and now we can rotate it using these sliders, and now just rotate it to what approximately matches the scene. Well, no, we pretty much look on the desk. This is what should happen. I'm not good at this. So we should probably pretty much be looking at this distortion thing. Something like this might work. Let's put it on the distortion because it would indicate that it's the correct place. Okay. So now we can look again. Yeah, this looks better because now from this perspective this should be there and that should be there. It's okay probably. It's not perfect, but for now it's good enough. Now we have the orientation done. Now we can go back to the compositing. Compositing is this. So, and now we can render once, so we have an image here. And again, now I forgot to put it back to transparent, because the image needs to be transparent for this to work. Okay, so as you can see, currently our composited image is just the image we get. And this makes sense because currently our render layer is directly fed into the composite output. So it's also always nice to have to put this also here so you see what you're doing. Because use backdrop, now it will be shown in the background all the time. Okay. So now what do we do? So we have a movie clip here. And this also has this will now have the correct size. So, but now what do? We just use an alpha over node. Put this here. And now let's see, is it correct? Yeah. Now see this is now put in front of it. And this already looks pretty good. So let's see if that makes sense. I just pressed F12 to re-render. No. Oh, okay. I just saw we also need to put this in the composite because this is just a preview here, this viewer. Okay, just clean up a little here. So, okay. Now let's see. Render again. So, okay, that looks pretty okay, I guess. But now we should be pretty much set up to do something that looks a little bit more realistic, like something that with gloss, because that's why we use this whole HDR stuff. So gloss and reflections, and also shadows and turn tint look correct. So now let's do that. So we're going to go to the 3D view here. So I'll just switch to top view, and now I will replace this because it's ugly with, let's use a Suzanne or something. Okay. Let's add some subdivision surface to make it prettier. I don't know, 3, something like this, and set it smooth. Okay, now this is okay. Now let's rotate it to, like this, to light flat or something. Put it here on the plane. Okay. Let's have a look. How does it look? Okay, looks the wrong way. Now let's rotate it around the z-axis to make it a little bit more pretty. Okay, look under the camera and maybe move it a little bit more Oh, that's sorry. Okay, now a little bit. Okay, I wanted to move it here. Someone don't get it, but okay. So okay, a little bit out of frame. Now how does that look? Okay, that looks quite nice. But now let's also add some, make it glossy. So now we come to the next nice feature. And this is the new principled, where is it? Principled BSDF shader. So now it's very easy to just make it metallic. Maybe let's go to render so you see what's happening here. So now that we make it metallic, you can actually see that this stuff is useful. But you can see there's this gray plate underneath it. We don't want that. So let's go ahead and make this we can see it here. I will go back to rendered. Currently this thing, it's not shown here in the render because it's in a different layer, but the problem is it's still visible to the reflection. So to make that, remove this glossy, and now it's not visible anymore. But it still catches the shadows. Okay, now, I don't know, let's make it a little, well, I don't know. How does it look if we render this? Yeah, it's a little too dark. So let's up the brightness a little bit. We can do that in the world here and make this a little stronger. I don't know, 5. That looks better. So I just increase the brightness of the environment. Maybe a little bit more even, maybe 7. Well, it starts to look better. Okay. And I think that is pretty much it. Now let's go to a frame where it's a little bit more centered. Okay. As you can see, there's a shadow beneath it, and the reflection should be approximately correct. Okay, I don't know. Maybe now we could render it out, make a small animation, but I think that would take a little bit too long. But just to show what's possible, I created a small render of the scene. I did a little bit different modeling and a little bit different texturing, but essentially it's the same setup. And I will just be playing that. But for now, this is the end of the tutorial. As you can see, you now have an easy way, and it's pretty quick, to quickly create an HDRI image of your environment, and then place a fake object into a real video. Okay, thanks for watching, and now I will be playing the video I promised.